restreams. So hopefully now you are seeing this on Facebook, I'm hoping. And anyway, let's just wrap up getting present with a moment or two, just rubbing our hands together, feeling the energy, the friction, the motion, the temperature, the pressure, the tickling and tingling when you stop, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So sorry about the glitchiness. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us. Today we're talking about rest. And this is coming off of a week where a whole bunch of my clients got sick, and 2 nights of sleeplessness for me. So I'm kind of whooped, and it's bringing a reminder of a book that I read called Rest as Resistance. Welcome, Robin. Welcome, welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning too. So this book, Rest as Resistance, if we look at our prevailing paradigm, it's very much about do, right? We are human doings to such a great degree, and our worth is measured on our productivity and how much we have, how much we do. And that's how we often validate our value. So Robin says, yippee, 2 days in a row that you're here. I'm thanking, right? It's great. We're so glad to have you joining us. So anyway, let's look at this idea of rest, because what we tend to do is push ourselves, right? To push ourselves, and we often push ourselves over the edge. We push ourselves beyond our limits, and somehow that's admirable in our culture. And I think it goes to this notion of sufficiency, to recognize that we don't have to do anything to be worthy. Like, just by virtue of our existence, we are worthy of being here. We are worthy of having life, of having a good life. And the way we choose to live that life is ours. And it, when we need to rest, how far do we need to let it get to before we allow ourselves to rest? I think that's a really valuable, important question. Robin says, I need to rest my mind. You know what, Robin, it's a very common need, because our minds go at 1,000,000 miles a minute, and we're thinking about all the things we have to do usually, right? And we think about it in that way, like, I have to do all these things. I must do all these things. And when we take time to rest, or take a nap, or just stay in bed even, there's a sense of, I think typically there's a sense of guilt, or like we're being lazy, right? There's this idea of laziness, and that we don't have a distinction, rest necessarily, without this notion of laziness. Like, we should again, we should be doing something else. And it's self-indulgent. And so to rest. And what does that mean, self-indulgent? When we attend to our needs and our desires, when we indulge ourselves, there's the word indulge, I have to look it up just because it has these implications of like excess or let's see, we've got to find out what indulge means. I like the idea of luxuriating. Okay, so indulge, to yield to an inclination or desire, allow oneself to follow one's will. I like that. I like that. Because usually we talk about indulge as in like dessert. And in fact, dessert is the example that they give here. But to yield to, gratify, satisfy desires, feelings, etc. So maybe we get to be more indulgent. Maybe we get to be more indulgent in a way that is nourishing and nurturing and responsive to our own needs and the calling of our being. What I notice is that so many of us, you know, being tied into this do thing, that we don't rest until we get to a point where we can't not. In other words, to a point to where we get sick. And I've seen so many people getting sick right now, so many people getting COVID right now. Obviously, more family time, more exposure to other people, but also as this season is winding down or the year is winding down, lots of people have been pushing and trying to get over the finish line, so to speak. And they're depleted. People are depleted. And so from that point of depletion, when we're exposed to pathogens, we're more susceptible, right? We're not as resilient because we've been pushing and maybe ignoring our needs. I love it. I love it. Rosalind says the salmon run. No joke. No joke. It's like, oh, I had this great cartoon. I don't know if you're familiar with the Far Side cartoons, but I probably can't show it because of copyright. I don't know if that would make a difference to show it, but it's all these salmon swimming upriver, and alongside the salmon run, there's a staircase, and there's this little figure in an overcoat, and you can see its salmon tail peeking out, and it's walking up the steps instead of going up the salmon run. So yeah, that's a great image of how we just get in this frenzy of doing, and we don't prioritize rest and relaxation. Like we think that that's extra, and that it's an overindulgence rather than something that is being responsive to a legitimate need that we have to actually rest, and that we can value that, and that we can prioritize that, and just calming down, being still, maybe reading a book, having a cup of tea, relaxing without having to do. And some people really truly get incredible satisfaction and vitality and energy out of that do kind of um, rhythm. And even those people, if they're not paying attention, will get themselves to a point where they're fried, just completely fried. And I think what happens too is that so many of us do to avoid being. We do so that we can avoid feeling a certain way. If there's some uncomfortable things going on in our lives, the doing allows us to avoid it, and we feel like we're being productive and not being overwhelmed by the emotion. Sometimes the best thing is to just face whatever it is. Although you can get a lot of productivity out of those kinds of situations sometimes, still that that feeling that you're avoiding at all costs is still going to be there to be addressed even after all the doing is done. So I wonder if you look at yourself and think about rest, do you allow yourself rest that's guilt-free? Or if you are resting, are you guilting yourself at the same time? Are you mitigating that rest by telling yourself you should be doing something else? Because heaven forbid you would be lazy. What is that? That's making no difference in the world. This is not, I'm not saying that that's true. I'm saying those are stories we tell ourselves. And there's so much to do, I can't afford to rest. Well, what if we can't afford not to rest? And it's so interesting, this book, Rest, I think it's called Rest as Resistance or Rest is Resistance. And it's talking about resting as a radical act in the face of racism and patriarchal culture. Very interesting, because again, we're conditioned into this productivity thing where our merit is based on what we produce in the world, which is really kind of crazy. What happened to quality of life? Right? Do we allow ourselves quality of life? And what's all the doing for anyway? Where is that getting us? What is it creating? Oftentimes we're just doing, we're not present to our intention about our doing this. And so part of this notion of resting, I think we can, as we can connect to our intentionality. I think this is a really good thing to be talking about as we're looking at the new year coming in, as we're looking at the holidays. Okay, the holidays, a really stressful time for so many people, and people, especially people with family friction. I know for me, the holiday times, because things were so fractious in my family for so many years, the holiday times were really, really tough, really tough. And trying to figure out which family people to be spending time with and where I was going to stay, and divided loyalties and all kinds of emotional stresses. And it was really, really a tough time of year. And so, I think for lots of people, on the other side of things, lots of people are having wonderful family gatherings, and nurturing family interactions, and that's a beautiful thing. But Robin says going through the motion of what has been instilled. Exactly. So what I'm talking about is we end up on automatic pilot. And I'm thinking that if we can deliberately set intentions for ourselves, not goals, but intentions, there's a distinction that we keep talking about here. Intention, I had a great conversation with one of my clients about intention versus goals. And they were asking, what kind of question can you ask to be able to distinguish what's an intention and what's a goal? And what we came to is that the intention is really connected more to a state of being, right? So for instance, if we're having a family gathering, the inclination is to try and get everything perfect, get the house clean, get everything organized, get everything beautiful. That's, like make it a perfect event, right? But that's sort of a goal versus an intention. And with that kind of goal, anything that doesn't work out the way you planned could be a massive upset, right? Because it's not achieving the goal. Versus the intention, if the intention is to have an awesome time with the family, to be connected, to create a loving space, then the specifics about whether you have the right pitcher to serve something in, or whether the right food came in, or if it's all timed perfectly, that falls away in importance. And instead, we get to focus on being present with each other. If it's about the performance itself, then there's all kinds of stuff that can really disrupt the ultimate real intention, which was to have this connecting experience together, right? So if we can look at the intentions of our behaviors, or our to-dos, even if we can look at the intentions of our to-dos, that can radically shift our experience and how we choose to go about it, how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to the tasks, how we relate to the other. Here's Jewel. She's over here meowing and wanted to be picked up. So here you can see her better. Maybe there she is. So going into the holidays, especially since it can be a challenging and automatic kind of time of year. Oftentimes when we're with our families, we fall back into patterns that that we have been working to grow out of. For example, if we can keep ourselves clear and focused on our intentions, then things tend to work out a whole lot better, and we can allow the ups and downs of things and the circumstances of things to flow more easily. Rosalind says, cute, Jewel, beautiful. Robin says, yes, she's my girl. She's my baby. She's a sweetie baby. I just got her, my nephew got a banana-shaped catnip toy for his cat. And his cat was having such fun with it. I thought, okay, I'm gonna get one for Jewel, and I got one for Jewel, and she sleeps with it. I mean, she loves this thing. It's very, very cute. So yeah, she's enjoying that a lot. Anyway, if we're talking about rest, if maybe we can intend to have a restful time. And if we can be present to that intention, of having a restful holiday season, then we can make choices that are in alignment with that intention. And things may look very different. It's like we don't have to go running around and doing all different things. Robin says, beautiful name. That's my mom's name. That's neat. That's very cool, Robin. Yes, Jewel. Well, she's called Jewel because of her eyes. She's always had these eyes, and they're kind of like jewels to me. So she sees through those eyes, by the way, but she definitely sees different. Anyway, so encouraging rest, and not as something extra, but as something essential to our being and our body, to allow ourselves to recover before we get over the edge, and to allow ourselves that gift. You might find that book, Rest is Resistance, interesting. It's very much talking about racism and the patriarchy, but it's kind of an interesting view to recognize that our culture, the patriarchal culture, and also like kind of based in this slavery thing, it's all about productivity, right? Instead of being. So Rosalind says, relax and recharge, often done by myself, quality time with others. So if we intend to have a restful time, we can have that be quality time with others too. I agree. For me too, it's often done by myself. And what if we allowed ourselves to have restful time in connection with others as well? That's a possibility, right? So I invite you to take good care of yourselves through the season, through Christmas, through New Year's, whatever holidays you're celebrating. That we set intentions rather than goals, that we live into our intentions, and then the goal kinds of things end up being benchmarks that emerge from the intentionality. So the action emerges from the intention rather than action for its own sake. And be deliberate. Be deliberate. Like, allow yourselves to go into this new year in an even more conscious and connected way, and to navigate the holidays in a conscious and connected way with intention. There's a richness of life and vitality available to us through that intentionality that isn't otherwise present. So with that, I wish you a wonderful, wonderful holiday and weekend. And I look forward to seeing you next week. And I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel, as well as my own Facebook page here. And Robin says, Merry Christmas to everyone. And I don't even know if it's still Hanukkah or not. That's my holiday, but it flew by me this year. And it's always, always, always a privilege to spend this time with you and explore life together. So until next time, so much love.